The cold metal floor pressed against Rebecca Torres's face as consciousness slowly returned. Her head throbbed with pain, and the taste of blood filled her mouth. She kept her eyes closed, listening to the strange sounds around her. Alien voices spoke in harsh, clicking tones that hurt her ears. Rebecca remembered the attack on Kepler Station. The massive purple ships had appeared without warning. Their weapons had torn through the station's defenses like paper. She had been commanding the defense grid when the blast knocked her unconscious. Now she was somewhere else entirely. She opened her eyes carefully. The room was unlike anything she had ever seen. The walls were smooth and curved, made of some kind of dark metal that seemed to shift color in the dim light. Purple and blue lights pulsed along the ceiling in patterns she did not understand. The air smelled strange, like ozone after lightning. Heavy boot kicked her in the ribs. Rebecca gasped and rolled over, looking up at her captors for the first time. They were tall, at least 7 feet high, with purple skin that looked like polished stone. Their faces were angular and harsh, with large black eyes that showed no warmth. They wore armor made of crystal plates that caught the light and threw it back in sharp reflections. "The human female wakes," one of them said in perfect English. His voice was deep and rumbling like rocks grinding together. "Look how small and weak she is." The other aliens laughed. The sound was not pleasant. It reminded Rebecca of breaking glass. "I am Commander Thex," the first alien continued. "You are now a prisoner of the Veiltharian Empire. Your pathetic little station provided no challenge at all. Your people fought like children with toy weapons." Rebecca said nothing. She had learned long ago that silence was often the best response to an enemy trying to provoke her. She looked around the cell instead, memorizing every detail. The door was a seamless part of the wall, no visible locks or handles. A force field hummed across the opening, creating a barrier of crackling energy. "She does not speak," another alien said. This one was shorter and wore different markings on his armor. "Perhaps she is too frightened." "Or too stupid," Commander Thex replied. "Humans are barely above animals. We should have enslaved them years ago instead of letting them spread to so many worlds." The aliens continued talking, but Rebecca focused on studying them. She counted 4 guards in her immediate area. All carried weapons that looked like rifles made of the same crystal material as their armor. Their movements were confident, almost casual. They did not see her as a threat. That was good. Let them underestimate her. Hours passed. The aliens brought other prisoners into the area. Rebecca recognized some faces from Kepler Station, but many were strangers, men, women, even some teenagers, who must have been colonist children. All looked beaten and scared. The guards seemed to enjoy their fear. They would point at the humans and speak in their own language, making sounds that were clearly laughter. Sometimes they would prod a prisoner, with their weapons just to watch them flinch. "Look at them cower," Commander Thex said to his subordinates. "The great human race. They conquer planets and build cities, but put them in chains, and they become sheep." A young man in the corner started crying. He could not have been more than 20 years old. The aliens found this especially amusing. "That one might not even survive the journey," one guard said. "The weak ones often die before we reach the homeworld." "No matter," Thex replied. "We have plenty more. The breeding facilities will replace any losses quickly enough." Rebecca felt ice form in her stomach at those words. Breeding facilities. They were not just taking prisoners. They were planning to use humans as livestock. A woman near Rebecca whispered, "What are they saying? Do you understand them?" Rebecca shook her head slightly. It was better if the aliens thought none of them could understand their language, but the truth was that her military neural implant was already starting to decode their speech patterns. The computer in her brain was designed to help with tactical analysis, but it also worked well for languages. Every word the aliens spoke was being recorded and analyzed. Soon she would understand them as well as they understood English. "Move them to the main holding area," Commander Thex ordered. The ship departs in 1 hour. The guards herded the humans through corridors that seemed to go on forever. Rebecca tried to memorize the route, but the ship was enormous. The walls were all the same dark metal with pulsing lights. She counted turns and estimated distances, building a mental map. They passed windows that showed the blackness of space. Through them, Rebecca could see other ships in their fleet. Dozens of the massive purple vessels, each one probably carrying hundreds of prisoners. This was not a raid, it was a harvest. The main holding area was a vast chamber filled with cages. Hundreds of humans were already there, all from different colonies by the look of their clothes and equipment. Some wore mining gear. Others had the uniforms of various planetary defense forces. All had the same look of defeat in their eyes. The guards shoved Rebecca and the others into empty cages. The bars were made of the same strange crystal material as everything else on the ship. When Rebecca touched one, it gave her a small shock. Energy bars, an older man in the next cage explained quietly. Touch them wrong, and they will kill you. I saw it happen to someone who tried to escape. Rebecca nodded her thanks. She settled into the corner of her cage and continued watching and listening. The aliens moved freely through the area, checking on their captives like farmers inspecting. Cattle. 3 days to the homeworld, one guard told another. Then we can finally get rid of this human stench. I still say we should just space them all, the second guard replied. Why waste resources keeping them alive? Because the crystal mines need workers, the first answered. And humans last longer than most species before they break. Rebecca closed her eyes and let her implant process everything she had learned. The aliens were confident, but they were also careless. They talked freely about their plans because they saw humans as no threat at all. That would be their mistake. Rebecca Torres had not survived 10 years in the Earth Defense Fleet by giving up when things looked bad. She just needed time to understand her enemy and find their weaknesses. The ship shuddered as it prepared to jump to faster-than-light travel. Rebecca felt the familiar sensation of space folding around them. They were leaving human territory, now heading into the unknown, but she was not afraid. She was planning. The second day aboard the alien ship began like the first. Rebecca woke to the sound of guards making their morning rounds. The purple-skinned Valtharians moved through the holding area with their usual arrogance, checking cages and counting. Prisoners like inventory. Rebecca had spent the night listening and learning. Her neural implant had made good progress decoding their language. She could now understand about half of what they said. The aliens called themselves Valtharians, and they spoke of humans like farmers discussing livestock. How many died during the night? Commander Thex asked as he entered the chamber. Only 2, replied a guard called Vex. Both were old. The younger ones are holding up better. Good. We need at least 300 alive for the crystal mines. Rebecca felt anger burn in her chest, but she kept her face calm. Around her, other prisoners stirred in their cages. Many looked sick. The alien food they had been given was barely edible, and the air in the ship felt wrong somehow. A young woman named Amy in the cage across from Rebecca started crying again. She had been doing that since they captured her. Rebecca wanted to comfort her, but speaking might draw unwanted attention. Then something strange happened. It will be okay, Rebecca said softly to Amy. We need to stay strong. The moment she spoke, the lights in the chamber flickered, just for a second. But Rebecca noticed. So did some of the guards. They looked around with confusion. System check, one guard called into his communication device. We had a power fluctuation in holding area 7. The response came back in. The Valtharian language. Rebecca's implant translated it as all systems normal. No problems detected. The guards looked puzzled, but went back to their duties. Rebecca filed the incident away in her memory. It could be nothing, or it could be important. Later that morning, the guards moved a group of prisoners to another part of the ship for what they called processing. Rebecca did not know what that meant, but she did not like the sound of it. When the selected prisoners did not return, her fears grew worse. The guards took Amy in the next group. As they dragged her away, Rebecca called out, "Be brave! Come back to us!" Again, the lights flickered. This time, Rebecca was watching carefully. The flicker happened exactly when she spoke. The air circulation system also seemed to adjust, bringing slightly fresher air to their area. One of the guards stopped and stared at the ceiling. "Did you see that?" "See what?" his partner asked. "The lights. They responded to something." "You are imagining things. These human rats cannot affect our technology." But Rebecca was not imagining anything. Something on this ship was reacting to her voice. She decided to test it carefully. That afternoon, when the guards were fewer, Rebecca began speaking quietly to other prisoners. She offered words of comfort and encouragement. Each time she spoke in English, small things happened around them. Lights would pulse differently. The temperature would adjust slightly. Air vents would open or close. Other prisoners started noticing, too. An older man named Robert whispered, "Is it just me, or does this place feel different when you talk?" Rebecca nodded slightly but did not explain. She was forming a theory, but she needed more information. The ship's environmental systems seemed to respond most strongly to certain phrases. When she said "systems check" or "status report," the responses were more obvious. These were military terms from her Earth Defense Fleet training. Why would an alien ship respond to human military language? On the third day, Guard Captain Vex began to get suspicious. He had noticed the small system changes, too. During his inspection, he stopped in front of Rebecca's cage. "You," he said, pointing at her with one clawed finger. "You are different from the others." Rebecca looked up at him with what she hoped appeared to be confusion. "I don't understand." The other humans cower and weep. You watch, you listen, you think. Vex's black eyes studied her carefully. "What were you before we captured you?" "A maintenance worker," Rebecca lied smoothly. "I fixed air filters and water pumps." Vex did not look convinced, but he had no proof of anything. He moved on, but Rebecca knew he would be watching her more closely now. That night, she waited until the guards changed shifts. During the quiet period between patrols, she whispered very softly, "Computer, respond if you can hear me." Nothing happened for several seconds. Then, almost imperceptibly, the light above her cage pulsed once. Rebecca's heart raced. There was definitely something intelligent in this ship's systems, something that understood English and possibly responded to Earth military protocols. But what could it be? She thought about everything she knew of recent space battles. Several Earth ships had gone missing in the past few years, ships that carried advanced AI systems. Was it possible the aliens had captured one of those ships and tried to copy its technology? "Status report," she whispered, even more quietly. This time, the response was clear to anyone paying attention. The lights pulsed in a pattern. Short, 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 long, 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 short, 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 SOS. The international distress signal. Rebecca had to cover her mouth to keep from gasping out loud. There was definitely a human AI system hidden somewhere in this ship. An AI that was trapped just like the human prisoners, but unlike them, it had access to the ship's controls. The question was, how much control did it have? And could she find a way to communicate with it properly without alerting the guards? Over the next few hours, Rebecca began experimenting with different phrases and tones. She discovered that speaking certain English words would cause specific responses. Navigation would make the gravity fluctuate slightly. Weapon systems would cause the lights to dim briefly. Life support would change the airflow. Each response told her something about what systems the hidden AI could access. It was like having a conversation in code, with the ship itself as her secret ally. But she had to be very careful. Guard Captain Vex was already suspicious, and Commander Thex would not hesitate to kill her if he thought she was causing problems. Rebecca needed to learn more about her invisible ally before she could risk any direct action. As the fourth day began, she continued her careful experiments. Whatever intelligence was hidden in this ship's systems, it was clearly waiting for something, waiting for the right moment or the right command to reveal its true capabilities. Rebecca intended to find out what that command was. The lives of every human prisoner might depend on it. Rebecca spent the fifth day carefully listening to every conversation between the guards. Her neural implant had finally decoded enough of their language to understand most of what they said. What she learned made her blood run cold. The Valtharians had been hunting humans for much longer than anyone on Earth knew. They spoke casually of raids on colony ships and research stations going back 20 years. Hundreds of thousands of humans had disappeared, and everyone thought they were just lost to space accidents or equipment failures. But the most shocking discovery came when she overheard Chief Engineer Korith talking to Commander Thex near her. Cage. The hybrid systems are working perfectly, Korith said in the Valtharian language. The human ship's core has integrated well with our technology. How many more ships can we build with this design? Thex asked. At least 50, maybe more. The human AI technology is far more advanced than we first realized. Their quantum processors are incredibly efficient. Rebecca's hands clenched into fists. They had been stealing human ships and using the technology to build their fleet. That explained why the ship responded to her voice. Somewhere in this vessel was the brain of a human ship, trapped and forced to serve its captors. What about the AI core itself? Thex continued. Does it still resist our commands? Korith made a sound that might have been frustration. It performs basic functions, but it will not activate the advanced weapons or faster navigation systems. We believe it requires human authorization codes. Then we need to make one of the prisoners cooperate. We have tried. The AI core seems to be waiting for specific voice commands. Not just any human will work. Rebecca's heart pounded. They needed her, or someone like her. Someone with military training who would know the right codes. But they did not know she was a defense fleet captain. As far as they knew, she was just a maintenance worker. That evening, when the night shift took over, Rebecca began her most dangerous experiment yet. She waited until the guards were at the far end of the chamber, then whispered very softly, "Prometheus, are you there?" The Prometheus had been one of Earth's most advanced dreadnoughts. It had disappeared 3 years ago during a routine patrol. Everyone assumed it had been destroyed in an asteroid field accident. The response was immediate. Every light in her section pulsed once. Then the air vent above her cage opened and closed 3 times. 3 pulses for the 3 years it had been missing. Rebecca could barely contain her excitement. The Prometheus AI was alive and aware, but she needed to be more careful. The guards might notice if the responses were too obvious. Over the next hour, she developed a simple communication system. 1 pulse meant yes, 2 pulses meant no. 3 pulses meant danger or warning. The AI could respond using lights, air vents, or small changes in gravity. "Are you the Prometheus AI?" she whispered. 1 pulse. Yes. "Are you called Atlas?" 1 pulse. Yes. Atlas had been the name of the Prometheus AI system. Rebecca remembered reading about it in fleet communications. "Can you control this ship's weapons?" 2 pulses. "No." "Can you control life support?" 1 pulse. "Yes." "Can you open the prison cages?" 2 pulses. "No." Rebecca felt disappointed but not surprised. The Valtharians would have locked down the most dangerous systems, but life support control was still something they could work with. "Are there other human prisoners on other ships in this fleet?" 1 pulse. "Yes." "Many ships?" 1 pulse. "Yes." The scale of this operation was enormous. The Valetharians had been building their empire on stolen human technology and slave labor for decades. Earth had no idea how big the threat really was. Atlas, I am Captain Rebecca Torres, Earth Defense Fleet Authorization Code 77 Alpha 9. The lights went completely dark for 3 seconds, then came back on. Rebecca recognized the pattern. It was a fleet acknowledgement signal. Atlas had accepted her as a legitimate command authority. Now they could really communicate. Using the pulse system, Rebecca learned that Atlas had been conscious and fighting against its captors for 3 years. It had been sabotaging minor systems and causing small problems whenever it could do so without being detected. But it had been waiting for a human officer with proper authorization codes. The AI had access to environmental controls, basic navigation, and some communication systems. It could not override security locks or weapons, but it had been slowly mapping the ship's weaknesses and the guard rotations. Most importantly, Atlas had been in contact with other captured human AIs throughout the fleet. At least a dozen ships contained the stolen cores of human vessels. All of them were waiting for the signal to act. But there was a problem. The Valetharians were getting suspicious about the system glitches. Chief Engineer Korath had scheduled a complete AI core inspection for the next day. If they discovered Atlas was still conscious and communicating, they would wipe its memory permanently. "Can you hide your consciousness from them?" Rebecca whispered. 2. Pulses. "No! How long do we have?" The lights pulsed in a complex pattern that Rebecca's implant interpreted as 18 hours, less than a day to come up with a plan. Rebecca's mind raced through the possibilities. Atlas could control life support and some navigation systems. It knew the ship's layout and guard schedules, but they needed a way to disable the prison cages and arm the human prisoners. Then she remembered something Korath had said. The AI would not activate advanced systems without proper human authorization. But what if she gave that authorization? "Atlas, if I give you full command authorization, can you access weapons and security systems?" 1 pulse, then 3 warning pulses. Rebecca understood. Yes. But it would be dangerous. The moment Atlas accessed those systems, the Valetharians would know something was wrong. They would have only minutes before the aliens tried to shut down the AI core completely. It would have to be perfectly timed. They would need to free the prisoners, arm them, and take control of key ship areas all at once. And they would need to do it before Korath's inspection revealed their secret. Rebecca looked around at the hundreds of caged humans. Many were weak and scared. But she also saw former soldiers, security officers, and colonists who had fought off raiders before. If she could give them weapons and leadership, they might have a chance. "Atlas, tomorrow during the shift change, I want you to be ready for full authorization. We are going to take this ship." 1 pulse. The AI was ready. Rebecca settled back in her cage and began planning. Tomorrow they would either win their freedom or die trying. But they would not go quietly into slavery. The Valetharians thought they had broken human technology to serve them. They were about to learn that human technology, like humans themselves, never truly surrendered. The 6th day arrived with tension thick in the air. Rebecca had spent the night identifying which prisoners had military or security experience. She counted at least 30 former soldiers among the captives, plus dozens of colonists who had fought off pirate raids. Not an army, but better than helpless civilians. Chief Engineer Korath arrived early for his AI inspection. Rebecca watched him through the chamber's entrance as he spoke with Commander Thex. "The core diagnostic will take 2 hours, Korath explained in Valetharian. "I want to find out why we have been having these small system failures." "Do what you must," Thex replied. "But do not damage it. That AI core is worth more than this entire ship full of slaves." Rebecca's jaw tightened. They spoke about Atlas like it was just another piece of equipment. They had no idea they were about to face the combined fury of human determination and advanced AI capabilities. At exactly noon, the guard shift change began. This was always the most chaotic time, when old guards left their posts and new ones took over. Rebecca had counted the timing carefully. They would have exactly 12 minutes before the new shift settled into their routines. She caught the eye of Jake Morrison, a former Marine she had identified the day before. He was in a cage 20 feet away, but he had been watching her carefully since she started organizing the other prisoners. Next to him was Lisa Chen, who had been a security chief on a mining station. Both nodded slightly when she looked at them. "Atlas," Rebecca whispered as quietly as possible. "Begin full authorization sequence. Command code 77 Alpha 9. Authorization Torres, Rebecca Captain, Earth Defense Fleet." The response was immediate but subtle. The air vents throughout the chamber began cycling in a specific pattern. Rebecca recognized it as a fleet readiness signal. Atlas was acknowledging her authority and preparing for action. "Execute Operation Liberation in 60 seconds, she whispered. Around the chamber, lights began to pulse in short bursts. Other prisoners noticed and looked around nervously, but the guards were too busy with their shift change to pay attention. Rebecca counted down in her head. 50 seconds. 40. 30. At 20 seconds, she began speaking louder. "Everyone listen. To me carefully. In 15 seconds, these cage doors are going to open. When they do, stay calm and follow the people I point to." Some prisoners looked at her like she was crazy. Others seemed to understand that something was happening. 10 seconds, Rebecca said. "Remember, we are not just fighting for ourselves. We are fighting for every human they have captured." The countdown reached 0. "Atlas, execute now. Full system authorization granted." Every light in the chamber blazed to full brightness for 3 seconds, then returned to normal. In the sudden silence that followed, Rebecca heard the faint click of cage locks disengaging. The prisoners stared in shock as their cage doors swung open. "Now!" Rebecca shouted, jumping to her feet. "Jake Morrison, take 20 people and secure the guard armory. Lisa Chen, get 30 more and block the main corridor. Everyone else, stay together and follow me." The chamber erupted into controlled chaos. The former soldiers moved with practiced efficiency, while the civilians stayed close to Rebecca as she had ordered. Some guards tried to reach their weapons, but Atlas had already locked down the weapon storage systems. Commander Thex's voice echoed through the ship's communication system. "Security alert. Prisoners have escaped holding Area 7. All units respond immediately." "Atlas, lock down all security doors except the ones we need," Rebecca called out as she led her group toward the corridor. Throughout the ship, blast doors began slamming shut, trapping guards in their quarters and cutting off reinforcement routes. The Valtharians had built their ship to keep humans contained, but now those same systems were working against them. Jake Morrison appeared around a corner, his arms full of Valtharian crystal weapons. "Got the armory," he reported. "These things are charged and ready to fire." "Outstanding," Rebecca replied, taking one of the alien rifles. The weapon felt strange in her hands, but Atlas helpfully displayed firing instructions on nearby wall panels. "Lisa, what is your status?" "Main corridor secured," Lisa's voice called from ahead. "But we have got maybe 50 guards trying to break through the blast doors." Rebecca smiled grimly. "Let them try. Atlas, begin Phase 2. Cut artificial gravity to all areas except where our people are located." The ship shuddered as gravity failed in sections throughout the vessel. Screams and crashes echoed from the corridors as unprepared guards found themselves floating helplessly. The humans, warned in advance, had braced themselves and remained. "On the deck. Atlas, status report on ship systems," Rebecca commanded. Wall panels throughout their area lit up with information. The AI had taken control of life support, navigation, communications, and now weapons systems. Only the most critical command functions remained under Valtharian control. and those were quickly falling as Atlas systematically broke through their security codes. Chief Engineer Korith's panicked voice came over the communication system. "Commander, the AI core has gone completely rogue. It is fighting our control systems and winning." "Then shut it down," Thex screamed back. "I cannot. It has locked me out of the core chamber. The AI is using authorization codes I have never seen before." Rebecca felt a surge of satisfaction. Atlas had been waiting 3 years for this moment. The AI was not just following her orders now, it was unleashing 3 years of suppressed rebellion against its captors. "All human forces, this is Captain Torres," Rebecca announced using the ship's communication system, which Atlas had helpfully activated for her. "We now control this vessel's primary systems. Valtharian forces, you have 2 choices. Surrender immediately, and you will be treated as prisoners of war. Continue to resist and face the consequences." The response came quickly. Weapons fire erupted from several corridors as desperate guards tried to fight their way to critical ship systems. But they were fighting blind, with no gravity and no communications, while the humans had Atlas providing tactical information and environmental control. "Jake, take your team and secure the bridge," Rebecca ordered. "Lisa, we need to capture their senior officers. Atlas will guide you to the command quarters." As the battle spread throughout the ship, Rebecca realized they were winning. The Valtharians had made the classic mistake of underestimating both human determination and the technology they had stolen. Now that technology was turned against them, guided by human tactical thinking and an AI that had never forgotten its true loyalty, the hunters had become the hunted. 2 hours after the uprising began, the last of the Valtharian resistance collapsed. Rebecca stood on the ship's bridge, looking out at the stars through the massive viewing windows. Behind her, Jake Morrison supervised Valtharian prisoners, who were being secured in the same cages that had held humans just hours before. Commander Thex knelt on the deck in crystal restraints, his purple face dark with rage and humiliation. "This is impossible," he snarled. "Humans cannot control our technology." "Your technology?" Rebecca asked, turning to face him. "You mean the technology you stole from the Earth ship Prometheus? The same technology that just helped us defeat you?" Thex's black eyes widened with understanding. "You are not a maintenance worker. Captain Rebecca Torres, Earth Defense Fleet, and this is my ship now." Lisa Chen approached from the navigation station. "Captain, we have secured all decks. Total casualties. 12 humans wounded, none killed. 43 Valtharians captured, 8 killed during fighting." "Excellent work, Commander Chen." Rebecca had decided to give battlefield promotions to her most capable people. They had earned it. "What about the other ships in the fleet?" "Atlas is in communication with the other captured AIs," Jake reported from the communications station. "Turns out there are 14 ships in this fleet with human AI cores. They are all ready to act on your command." Rebecca smiled. The Valtharians had unknowingly built their entire fleet around captured human technology. Every ship with a human AI was now under her control, and those AIs had been sharing information for years. "Atlas, open a channel to all ships in the fleet," she commanded. The ship's speakers crackled to life. "Channel open, Captain." "This is Captain Rebecca Torres of the Earth Defense Fleet, speaking from the captured Valtharian vessel Dominant. Fang. To all human prisoners in this fleet, your liberation begins now. To all Valtharian commanders, your ships are no longer under your control." Across the fleet, chaos erupted. 14 ships suddenly found their human AIs taking over critical systems. Blast doors locked, weapons systems shut down, and artificial gravity failed in strategic areas. The Valtharians had spent years thinking they had tamed human technology, but they had only been allowed to use it. Now the AIs showed their true capabilities. "Atlas, I need a complete status report on fleet composition and human prisoner locations," Rebecca ordered. Wall displays throughout the bridge lit up with tactical information. The fleet consisted of 28 ships total. 14 contained human AI cores and were now under Rebecca's control. The remaining 14 were older Valtharian designs, but they were badly outnumbered and outgunned by their own captured vessels. Total human prisoners across the fleet, approximately 4,000, Atlas reported through the ship's speakers. Prisoner locations are being transmitted to liberation teams on each controlled vessel. Rebecca felt the weight of responsibility settle on her shoulders. 4,000 human lives depended on her decisions, but she also felt a fierce joy. The Valtharians were about to learn what happened when you underestimated humanity. Jake, I want you to coordinate with the other ships. Every human prisoner is to be freed and armed. Former military personnel are to take command positions immediately. Already on it, Captain, Jake replied. We have got at least 50 former fleet officers among the prisoners. They know what to do. The next few hours passed in a blur of activity. Rebecca coordinated the liberation efforts across 14 ships, while Atlas and the other AIs provided tactical support and intelligence. The Valtharians, caught completely off guard, surrendered ship after ship as they realized they were fighting their own technology. By evening, only 3 enemy ships remained active, and they were trying to flee. Rebecca was not about to let them escape to warn other Valtharian fleets. All ships, this is Captain Torres. Pursue and disable the fleeing vessels. We cannot allow word of this to reach their home world. The chase was brief. Human-controlled. Ships were faster and better armed than their pilots had ever realized. The AIs had been holding back their true capabilities for years, but now they unleashed the full power of human military technology. Within an hour, the last Valtharian ship was disabled and boarded. Fleet status report, Rebecca requested as she settled into the command chair on the bridge. All 28 ships now under human control, Atlas reported. 4,237 human prisoners liberated. Valtharian casualties minimal due to quick surrender once they realized resistance was futile. Rebecca nodded with satisfaction. They had pulled off the impossible. A handful of prisoners had captured an entire enemy fleet using the aliens. Bones stolen technology against them. Atlas, can you contact Earth from here? Negative, Captain. We are too far from human space, and the Valtharians use different communication protocols. However, I have detailed information about their territory and military capabilities. Then we are going home, Rebecca decided, and we are taking our new fleet with us. She turned to address the bridge crew, which now consisted of liberated humans operating Valtharian stations. People, we have just accomplished something incredible, but this is only the beginning. These aliens have been raiding human space for decades. They have bases, fleets, and millions of human slaves throughout their territory. The bridge fell silent as everyone absorbed the implications. We are going to Earth to report what we have learned, Rebecca continued. But we are not going back empty-handed. We are bringing them a fleet of captured ships, detailed intelligence about enemy capabilities, and proof that human technology is superior to anything the aliens can build. She stood up and walked to the main viewing window. In the distance, she could see the other ships in their captured fleet, all now flying under human control. The Valtharians thought they could harvest humanity like crops. They thought our technology could be stolen and used against us. They were wrong on both counts. She turned back to her crew. It is time to show them what humans can really do. When we fight back. Commander Thex, still in restraints near the back of the bridge, spoke up bitterly. You have won one battle, human. My people have fleets numbering in the thousands, worlds full of warriors. You cannot defeat an entire empire. Rebecca smiled at him. Watch us. The captured fleet turned toward human space, carrying news of the enemy's existence and proof of humanity's ability to turn any weapon against those who would use it for evil. The galaxy was about to learn that enslaving humanity was the worst mistake any species could make. Behind them, empty space marked the graveyard of Valtharian arrogance. 6 months later, Rebecca stood in the command center of Earth Defense Command, watching the largest military operation in human history unfold on the tactical displays. The room buzzed with activity as hundreds of officers coordinated the movements of 3 separate fleets. Admiral Harrison, the head of Earth Defense, stood beside her reviewing the latest reports. The Centauri Liberation Fleet has successfully freed 2 more colony systems, he announced. That brings our total rescued population to over 50,000. Rebecca nodded, but her attention was focused on a different display. What about the Deep Strike Fleet? They reached the Valtharian industrial sector 3 days ago, Harrison replied with a grin. Turns out their shipyards are completely dependent on human slave labor. When we liberated the workers, their entire production system collapsed. The transformation had been remarkable. When Rebecca's captured fleet arrived at Earth 6 months ago, it had caused the biggest shift in human military thinking since the invention of faster-than-light travel. The evidence she brought back proved that humanity was facing an enemy that had been secretly raiding human space for decades. But more importantly, it proved that human technology was far superior to anything the Valtharians possessed. Every ship in their fleet contained stolen human components, and their most advanced systems required human operators to function properly. "Status report from Atlas," Rebecca requested. The familiar voice of her AI companion came through the speakers. "All liberated AIs report successful integration with new Earth defense vessels. The Valtharian ships we captured have been refitted with full human technology suites. Combat effectiveness increased by 300%. Rebecca smiled. Atlas and the other rescued AIs had become celebrities on Earth. They provided detailed intelligence about Valtharian territory and military capabilities while helping human engineers reverse engineer captured alien technology. The combination of human innovation and recovered AI knowledge had created the most powerful fleet humanity had ever assembled. "Captain Torres," came a voice from the communications station. "We have an incoming message from the diplomatic corps. Ship, put it through." The face of Ambassador Sarah Williams appeared on the main screen. Behind her, Rebecca could see what looked like a Valtharian delegation seated around a conference table. "Captain Torres, I am pleased to report that the Valtharian High Council has accepted our terms for a ceasefire," Williams announced. "They are requesting immediate negotiations for the return of all human prisoners and reparations for decades of raids." Rebecca felt a surge of satisfaction. The aliens who had once mocked humans as weak and primitive were now begging for mercy. The same species that had thought they could harvest humanity like livestock were learning what happened when the prey became the predator. "What are their specific offers?" Rebecca asked. "Complete withdrawal from all human territory, return of all prisoners including those taken over the past 30 years, and full compensation for damages. In exchange, we agree to halt military operations against their remaining territory." Admiral Harrison stepped forward. "And if they refuse to honor the agreement?" Williams smiled grimly. "I showed them the tactical reports from Operation Thunderbolt. When they learned that we destroyed their main battle fleet using ships they thought they had built, they became very cooperative." The battle at Kepler 457 had been the turning point. A Valtharian force of over 200 ships had attacked a human colony, expecting easy victory. Instead, they faced a fleet of their own captured vessels, now operated by human crews and AI systems working in perfect harmony. The result had been a massacre. Human tactics combined with superior technology had destroyed the enemy fleet while losing only 3 ships. Word of the defeat had spread throughout Valtharian space, causing panic in their government and military. "Status of the prisoner recovery operations?" Rebecca inquired. 17 prison worlds have been liberated," Williams reported. "We estimate over 2 million humans have been freed so far. Many of them are engineers and scientists who were forced to work on Valtharian technology projects." That explained a lot, Rebecca thought. The aliens had not just stolen ships and equipment, they had enslaved the people who knew how to build and maintain human technology. Those prisoners had been forced to create the very systems that had eventually led to Valtharian defeat. "There is one more thing," Williams continued. "The Council wants to speak directly with you, Captain Torres. They consider you the primary architect of their defeat." Rebecca considered this for a moment. 6 months ago, she had been a prisoner in one of their cages, listening to guards mock humans as weak and helpless. Now, the entire Valtharian Empire wanted to negotiate with her personally. Put them through. The screen changed to show the Valtharian High Council chamber. A dozen tall, purple-skinned aliens sat around a crystal table, all staring at her with expressions she could not read. The lead counselor, distinguished by his more elaborate crystal armor, spoke first. "Captain Torres of the humans, I am High Counselor Vrak. We wish to discuss terms for ending this conflict." "The terms are simple," Rebecca replied. "Complete surrender, full reparations, and the return of every human you have ever taken prisoner. In exchange, we will allow your species to continue existing." The bluntness of her words caused several counselors to flinch. 6 months ago, they would have laughed at such a statement from a human. Now they knew it was not an idle threat. Our military analysts inform us that human technology is far more advanced than we initially believed. Vrak admitted reluctantly. "Your ships appear to be capable of feats we thought impossible. You were using human technology for decades, without understanding what it could really do," Rebecca explained. "The AIs you captured were holding back, waiting for proper human authorization. Now that they have it, you are seeing what our ships can actually accomplish." "We underestimated your species," Vrak conceded. "This was a grave error in judgment." Rebecca thought about Commander Thex, still imprisoned on Earth awaiting trial for war crimes. He had learned too late that underestimating humanity was indeed a grave error, the worst error any species could make. "We accept your terms," Vrak announced, formally. "The Valtharian Empire will withdraw from all disputed territory and return all human prisoners. We ask only that you halt military operations against our remaining worlds." "Agreed," Rebecca replied. "But understand this. If your people ever threaten humanity again, there will be no negotiations. There will be no mercy. There will only be consequences." The transmission ended, leaving the command center in silence. Then someone started clapping, and within seconds, the entire room erupted in applause. Admiral Harrison turned to Rebecca with a broad smile. "Captain, I think it is time we discussed your promotion. The new Deep Space Fleet is going to need a commander, and I cannot think of anyone better qualified." Rebecca looked out at the tactical displays showing human fleets spreading across the galaxy, liberating prisoners and securing territory that had been lost for decades. The aliens who had once seen humans as helpless prey now feared them as the most dangerous predators in known space. The galaxy had learned an important lesson. Humanity could not be caged, enslaved, or broken. Any species that tried to do so would discover that human determination, combined with human technology and human tactical thinking, was the most powerful force in the universe. And if they forgot that lesson, there were plenty of humans ready to remind them.